and there was Lula out in the yard crying, a strangled chicken still flopping in one hand, because she was setting about making dinner, even with them dead in the house. Me and Lula had been living out under a tree to stay out of the way of getting the pox, and we cooked out there and ate out there. Grandpa would come in and check on Ma and Pa, 'cause he couldn't catch it. He'd had it and lived through it when he was younger, and he couldn't get it anymore. He caught it way up among the Cheyenne near the Wind River Range, which was nowhere close to where we were in East Texas. He got it the same way the Cheyenne did. Some infected blankets given to them by white folks as a kind of joke. He was a missionary and had lived up there with them. Both he and Grandma had it and lived, and then some years later Grandma was run over by a frightened cow near Gilmer, Texas, while she was trying to calm it down for milking. The pox couldn't kill her, but a cow that didn't want to be milked had. I barely remember Grandma. I guess I must have been about 5 when that cow done her in. Lula was 3 years old. Grandpa, according to family story, shot the cow and ate it. I guess he considered that was getting even, having a steak made of the murderer. I never heard him speak sadly of the death of Grandma or the cow, but he and Grandma seemed to have gotten along fine, and up until that day neither he nor the cow had experienced a minute's trouble, I've been told. On the day Ma and Pa died, I went in and looked at them, but I didn't stand too close, and I didn't touch nothing. They looked horrible, all pocked over and bloody where they had scratched, and those little odd blisters with the dents in the middle had broken open and bled. I rode our tired old mule over to Grandpa, who lived down from us a little ways, and he put on his dusty suit coat and hat and rode back beside me, driving his wagon. He brought with him some sacks of lime he had for his garden, and a couple of pine boxes he had already built, being pretty certain what was coming. He had also packed some bags and put them in the wagon too, but at the time I didn't know what that was about, and was too stunned to ask. If a pig had flown by with a deck of cards in its teeth, it wouldn't have fazed me. Me and Grandpa dug graves for Ma and Pa. Because Grandpa couldn't get the pox, he rolled them onto fresh sheets, dragged them out of the house, lifted them into those coffins, and poured lime on them. I helped him lower the coffins down in the holes with rope. He said when we were covering them up, he felt the lime would hold back the disease so it wouldn't spread from their bodies and give it to others. I don't know. I figure 6 feet of dirt helped quite a bit. We got them buried, and he preached some words over them with the Bible in his hand, but I couldn't tell you what section he preached from. I was too stunned to tell. And Lula looked as if her mind had gone to a place no one could find. She hadn't said anything since I found her with the dead chicken, which we had ended up tossing in a ditch. When he finished up with the preaching, he set fire to the house and put us in the wagon and started us out, my old mule tied on a rope line behind the wagon. "Where are we going?" I said, looking back at our blazing home. It was all I knew to say. Lula was all huddled up and not talking at all. Anyone didn't know her, they'd have thought she was a pretty mute. "Well, Jack," Grandpa said, without so much as looking over his shoulder, "we're not going back to that burning house, that's for sure. You're going on up to Kansas to stay with your Aunt Tessel."
"I don't even know I've met her,"
Lula said, this being something that brought her out of her stupor and gave her a tongue. She said it so suddenly and unexpectedly I hopped a little, and I think Grandpa did too. "I barely remember her," I said. "Be that as it is, you're going to live with her," Grandpa said. "She don't know it yet, but I figured it might be best not to give her time to recollect on it. We'll spring a surprise on her, and considering I'm planning on staying as well, though I'll come a little later so as not to overwhelm the situation, it'll be a surprise. Never cared for Tessel, actually, as she always seemed to be Mama's favorite, but tragedy makes strange bedfellows." "You're sure that's the best way?" I said. "Just showing up?" "It might not be the best way," he said, "but it'll be our way. I'll tell you, too, another thing. I saw this coming, and I've sold off all my livestock, except these 2 mules, and you have your pa's mule, and now you have contracts for both pieces of land, your father's and mine. They're in the